What's up, Jolinator Club? Alright, so once again, this is a Marvel review, so I got my Marvel poster behind me, and tonight I am continuing my series of Spider-Man reviews with Spider-Man 2. Okay, so I should mention that a lot of people consider Spider-Man 2 to be better than the first Spider-Man film, and I agree with that completely. This movie is almost tied, I don't know if it's my favorite or my second favorite Spider-Man film. It's battling between one and another one that I'll get to when I review that one. But anyway, Spider-Man 2 came out in 2004, once again directed by Sam Raimi, and once again stars Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, and James Franco. And, okay, so in this movie, Peter is just, okay, well, before I continue, I should mention this. This review will contain spoilers, just like my previous Spider-Man review, so if you haven't seen this movie yet, watch it, okay? Anyway, so in this movie, Peter is just always so busy and always getting just tied up with everything that he does, you know, balancing his job, his relationship with Mary Jane, and of course him being Spider-Man, to the point where he just can't take it. At the same time, we also have the introduction of Doc Ock, or Otto Octavius, whichever one you want to call him by, it's the same guy. But anyway, played by Alfred Molina, and he's the villain in this movie. So, the reason why a lot of people say that this movie works well, of course a lot of people have their reasons, but for me, there are so many characters that have real motivation. You know, you immediately relate to how Peter is feeling, and Harry feeling betrayed. So that definitely makes this movie work for me. Now the opening scene in this movie where Spider-Man has to deliver this pizza definitely reminded me of the Spider-Man 2 video game, which if you guys have played the Spider-Man 2 game, you know that game's awesome. It's probably my favorite Spider-Man game of all time. It's a whole Spider-Man experience. There's a part where you have to deliver a lot of pizzas and get them there on time. I had a lot of fun with that game. But anyway, back to the movie. This movie definitely shows what it would be like for a normal kid to be Spider-Man. And that is something that is beautifully shown in this movie. Okay, so Peter is just constantly trying to balance everything in his life, but he can't make it to see Mary Jane at a play. And when all this stuff is just keep pressuring on him, when all of it just pressures on him and he's just being beaten into the dirt, he's done. He just quits being Spider-Man. His powers won't work, and there's just lots of reasons, but he just stops. But anyway, now Otto Octavius as the villain, I gotta talk about this. I gotta talk about this character. Alfred Molina did an incredible job. He nailed this character. And the practical arm effects that are actually behind him most of the time, for any of you who were curious, that's beautiful. And that hospital scene, that's quite possibly one of my favorite introductions to a supervillain in any movie. You know, now a lot of people said that it was too violent, but I don't think that way at all. It definitely shows how destructive Doc Ock was going to be. Now, along with all this, you have this scene with Peter at this party, this sort of gala event for the Daily Bugle, and he finds Harry there, and Harry's just drunk. He slaps him in the face, but the reason why he does this, because of course at this point Harry doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man, and Peter was there, they knew this, and he can't tell his best friend that he was Spider-Man. However, the reason why this movie shows what it would be like for anyone to be Spider-Man was particularly this one scene where Peter has sort of a dreamlike vision between him and Uncle Ben in Uncle Ben's car, and Uncle Ben's reaching out to him saying, "Take my hand, be Spider-Man," and he says, "No, I'm Spider-Man no more." Man, every time I watch that scene, it really makes me sad. It really does. But that leads into the raindrops keep falling on my head scene, and when I was a kid I was like, what? But nowadays it's so cheesy and hilarious at the same time. I still like it. Now eventually, oh, and there's also this one scene where Doc Ock is robbing a bank and then Spider-Man shows up. When this happens, Peter runs off from Aunt May, and then he comes back as Spider-Man and saves the day and everything. But the only reason that can be a flaw for me is if Aunt May knows, or at least suspects that Peter is Spider-Man. I mean, she has to at least know, because there is one scene where it's kind of a hint where they are out back in they are out behind Aunt May and Peter's old house, and Aunt May is looking at him, giving this very heartfelt speech, saying, "We need Spider-Man," and so that can kind of be a hint as to anything that might say that Aunt May might know that he is Spider-Man. Now, I do have a few other flaws with this movie, but the first one I gotta mention. The first one is that I feel in some scenes of this movie, MJ is a little too harsh on Peter, and that's just not MJ to me. There are some scenes in this movie where it really doesn't seem like Kirsten Dunst is portraying the character. I mean, Kirsten Dunst does a great job, don't get me wrong, but there are some scenes where it just really does not seem like Mary Jane at all. Until later on, but of course, we'll get to that. And there's this other scene where Peter and MJ are at this coffee shop, and then Doc Ock shows up, crashes the place, and here's the thing. The reason why Doc Ock was there was Harry's told Otto, he's like, "If you kill Spider-Man, I'll give you all the tritium you need." When he finds Peter, he doesn't know that Peter's Spider-Man. He launches him against this wall and could have possibly killed him. Okay, if you wanted Peter to tell you where Spider-Man was, it might not have been a good idea to throw him against a wall and completely incapacitate him or possibly paralyze him. Nevertheless, it leads into the scene where Spider-Man comes back. Yay! And it leads to one of my favorite action scenes in any superhero movie, the train scene. Oh man, this scene is just so awesome. Doc Ock and Spidey just duking it out on the train. A train coming by and Spider-Man nearly getting sideswiped by it. Jumping into the train through the bars and just coming out the other side, going down onto the road, trying to get back onto the train as quickly as possible. It's just awesome. I love that scene. But then later, when Harry finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, it's very quick, but I think it needed to be. So, and now we come to the film's finale. Of course, Doc Ock has kidnapped Mary Jane, and Spider-Man and Doc Ock are fighting, and it's awesome. But then MJ finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, and it just becomes like this feeling of, oh, finally. And I swear, towards the end of this finale, I've always loved this one line where Peter's trying to save MJ, and this line is so Peter Parker. He's holding this thing. He's like, "Hi, this is really heavy." I just love it. And now we get to the ending of the movie. I should mention, I forgot to mention this, that Mary Jane has agreed to marry this astronaut guy, John Jameson, who is J. Jonah Jameson's son, for those of you who are not familiar with Spider-Man lore. But anyway, she was going to marry him, but eventually she just leaves the whole thing, runs over to Peter, and Peter tells her, "Okay, we can't be together because Spider-Man will always have enemies. You and I can never be. I will always be Spider-Man." But she says, "Hey, forget that. I want to be together. Let's not be half alive. Let's be together." That was really strong, and I really like that. So in the end, guys, Spider-Man 2, I'm going to say it. I think it's my favorite Spider-Man film to date. I absolutely love Spider-Man 2, and it is going to get my highest rating, which is a movie that is so nice, it is worth seeing thrice. Okay, guys, so post your comments below. I want to know, what do you think of Spider-Man 2, and what do you think of it in comparison to the first one? Oh, before I go, I should also mention this one other scene that I forgot to mention. There's also this burning building scene where Peter saves this kid from the burning building, and I feel like it kind of has a place in there, but because as much as Peter wants to push aside the whole Spider-Man thing, he still wants to still be brave and heroic. So anyway, I like that scene. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. And anyway, post your comments below. What did you think of Spider-Man 2? Do you prefer the first one or the second one better? Stay tuned next month when I will review Spider-Man 3 for you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you anyways. And as always, thank you all for watching. And if you like this, like, comment, favorite, hit that subscribe button, and join the Jolinator Club.
Chest bump.